Hey guys, glad you could join us for another episode of Core 4 Life. We're your hosts, Ryan,
Matt,
Mike, and Andrew.
We bring you another episode every Thursday to discuss 4 key pillars in our lives: be fit, be driven, be noble, and be chill, and how our faith is the backbone behind each of those pillars. We'll be talking to some awesome guests, tackling different topics, and staying accountable with each other to live our lives the way God intended. Tune in each week to see if there may be something missing in your life. Let's jump into today's episode after a quick ad for our sponsor.
Have you ever thought about making a podcast but thought, it's probably too hard to get started? Couldn't be further from the truth when you use Anchor. First of all, it's free, so check off box number 1. It has easy-to-use creation tools on your browser or your phone. Anchor distributes your podcast for you, and you can make money no matter how many listeners you have. It really is a one-stop shop for all of your podcast needs. So stop delaying and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Well, our guest today has been on the Cleveland airwaves since 2001, and you might recognize his voice as one half of the morning show crew on 95.5 The Fish, where he brings inspiration and joy to listeners every day. And as Clevelanders and longtime listeners ourselves, we are super excited to welcome Len Howser to the show today. So, Len, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, I appreciate it. No, I look forward to it.
Yeah, it's great.
Welcome.
So I think to start off, we feel like we've probably known you for a long time, just listening to the morning show and hearing your stories about your family and your interactions with Sarah. So can you just give us a little background on yourself, maybe something that we don't know?
Yeah, a little background just so you know where I'm from. So I'm a lifelonger here in the greater Cleveland area. Grew up in Elyria Township, which is a small township near Elyria. And that's it. I'm a lifelonger there.
Yeah, cool.
Lived there all my life. I got into the radio business right out of high school. Went to vocational school, got my first work in radio at Hit Kickin' Country, 1320 WOBL.
We got some country fans here.
I do love some country music.
Hit Kickin' Country. And after that, it was really providential because I met a guy there who was just starting a contemporary Christian music station. And he found out I was a person of faith and said, would you be interested in working, the overnight show or whatever here at the radio station? So I did. I got into it. And I worked at that station for a long time. It was another local station. It was 104.9 FM, and it is now Cleveland's fine arts station.
Oh, okay.
So we operated that as a contemporary Christian music station for a good number of years. It was bought out by one of the big radio companies. You maybe have heard of the brand iHeart before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they bought our station. I could have stayed aboard, but I really wasn't interested in that. So I left radio and got into sales for a little while.
Okay.
And I enjoyed sales. People would always ask me, they would say, are you going to get in radio? It seems like you should be in radio. And I said, you know what? The only way that I'm going to get back into radio is if Cleveland gets a contemporary Christian music station that covers the whole market. And here we go, The Fish. So it all worked out.
That's awesome.
All worked out, yeah.
So the startup of The Fish, were you involved in that, or they just seek you out when?
Well, I wish they would seek me out. I just felt like, that's what I wanted to be a part of. And so it was kind of neat. Some really great people started up the radio station. We're owned by Salem Communications, Salem Media Group, which is a national company. It's the country's largest commercial holder of Christian radio stations. And so they thought Cleveland would be a good market. And they had hired all their people for The Fish. When I found out about the position, I thought I got to get busy. So I put together this really cool custom resume. I didn't know anything really about the radio station. I had all these fish all over the place. And, got some of the tapes out from things I'd done previously. And it worked out. They brought me in, and I was, I think, the last guy they hired at The Fish. So it just worked out great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So did you start at the morning show on The Fish, or did you?
No, I didn't actually. I started off in the afternoon on The Fish, did afternoons for a number of years. As a matter of fact, as it worked out, I hadn't been in radio for a couple of years, so I was a little rusty, a little nervous, and hadn't really run the type of equipment they had there at the radio station. They said, just come into the morning, watch the first guys that are starting off, and you'll pick up on things. You'll start your show in the afternoon. Well, as it is, all morning long we had technical difficulties, and I'm thinking, man, I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't run this equipment before. We've got these great radio pros that are putting all this together. And hour by hour went by, and finally, right when my show was getting ready to start, they said, "Oh, we got everything working. We're ready to launch the radio station." Everyone was excited. I was a nervous wreck, and so the president of the company, our regional manager, the program director, all these people, instead of letting me get acclimated, they all wanted to be a part of the start of the radio station. So I can remember them standing behind me for the very first words that I uttered about the Fish radio station after not being on the radio for about 2 or 3 years. Wasn't a very good show. I remember walking in the general manager's office. I knocked on his office door. The national regional president was there with him, and I knew I didn't sound very good. I opened the door, stuck my head in, and I said, "It'll be better tomorrow," and I left. That's the way we started. But it's gone good since that. I was with the station for a number of years, and then they asked me to do the morning show. And my co-host at that time was a local Cleveland radio personality, Robin Swoboda.
Okay.
Yeah, so Robin was my first co-host, yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and then Brooke Taylor, right?
You know what? I have been so fortunate, so blessed with the co-host. So I've had Robin Swoboda and then Brooke Taylor, who is just an amazing woman of faith, strong in her Catholic faith. I worked with her for 7 years, and Brooke just has a great story because she adopted a child from Poland, and she didn't know at the time, and her daughter was special needs. She's autistic.
Wow.
And she doesn't even speak. And so, she left the show to care for her daughter. And then, I thought, what am I going to do? I've had such a good time with Brooke. And then, like providential timing, my co-host Sarah Carnes, who I have now, she is so talented and so amazing and so quick-witted, so bright, and she applied for the job, so I've had great co-hosts.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. You can tell you guys just have fun in the morning.
Oh,
you can just tell it comes through.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's fun. It's one of the last free forms of media. It's kind of what you guys are doing here with some restrictions, but nevertheless, we just have conversations in the morning.
Do you still get nervous at all when the mics kick on? I mean, you've been doing it for a while, so
you know what? I would not say nervous at all. I mean, I really feel like I'm just talking to people, like they're right there in the studio with us, and we're just having a conversation. So not really. And we've had some pretty big guests in the studio, and we've done some pretty crazy things. But I just love what I do. So yeah, no nerves.
Yeah, that's great.
What about, you do look like you have a lot of fun. Are there any stories behind the scenes or anything that goes on that maybe the listeners haven't heard about yet you could share?
Well, I will always say that the danger in broadcasting, now so far nothing really bad has happened, but the biggest danger in broadcasting is having your microphones on and thinking that they're turned off, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people burned on that.
Yeah, and on any given day, we're having great conversations. We say, I wish everyone could hear our conversations between the songs. We're planning the show, or we're talking about things, or we're discussing something we saw on TV just like everybody else is. And, we're just being ourselves. And, of course, we're not saying anything really, really, really bad, but sometimes we say something and then I look down and I think, were the mics on? But so far, no big slip up or anything like that.
So no big one yet.
No, don't say yes. Yes. That's right. Well, what happens is in the studio, the monitors turn off when you turn your mics on.
Okay.
So that should be a safeguard, but sometimes you're just so engaged in a conversation you're not
Just
even
keep rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
We have the safety net of editing the
Yeah.
podcast and just being live on air, trying to come up with stuff to talk about too.
The feeling though, when you think maybe the mics were on, you can imagine.
Your
heart,
you're
just like frozen. You're looking at the phones. Is anybody calling? No, it must be okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know how much you know about us, but we have our 4 pillars: are be driven, be fit, be noble, be chill. And so we like to kind of talk through some of those with our guests. And pick into some of those individual topics. And to start off, you seem like a really driven guy. I read your bio like on the fish page, and you say you wake up at 3:30 in the morning every day. It's an early start, and you're doing other stuff at the station. You're running stuff, program director, right?
Yeah, I do. I'm program director at the station. I do the morning show, co-host the morning show, prepare for that. I'm involved in the sales and marketing of the radio station too, just involved in just about everything we do at the fish. And the clock goes off at 3:30 in the morning, but I don't like to miss what's going on at night, so really I don't hit it till maybe like 10 o'clock or something like that. Yeah. Man.
So where does that drive come from for you?
You know what? Of course, I have the advantage of saying I love what I do. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I really do love what I do. I love what we stand for on the fish. So that definitely motivates or drives me. But, I just simply feel like, God's given us a limited amount of time here on earth, and he gives us opportunities. And, if I have health and I have breath, and if I can make a difference in people's lives, I just want to go, Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that's the core of our Be Driven pillar too, is we want to base it on our faith and say, God has given us these opportunities, so let's take them. So that's
it. That's the way I look at it. There'll be a time maybe where I'll have to rest, and I'll have that time, and maybe in the next life I'll be given a good mission. But for now, as long as I have health and the ability to do it, I just want to do as much as I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, because you see that so much in today's culture where that drive comes from wanting to make more and more money, get the bigger house, whatever it might be. And so, I mean, it's a great testament to you loving what you do, trying to breathe your life right now while you're here to further God's kingdom in any way that you can.
That's really the goal. If I can make somebody's life, their day, their mood a little bit better, if I can help point them in the right direction, if I can take something that maybe they were overwhelmed about and turn it on its head and make them realize, big picture, it's okay. We're going to make it another day. And if I can help anybody just a baby step on their journey of faith, then, that's what it's all about. It's really investing your time in people, right? People are more important than stuff.
Well, that's a good point, because we've said that before in our circles. You never know how much impact you have. You try to pray for opportunities to talk with people about Christ and share that with them. For you, definitely, you probably don't have any idea of how many people you might have impacted through things that you might have talked about or said on the fish, but you've got a very wide audience there that's going to hear everything that you guys say and talk about. So, have you had any cool stories of people coming up to you before and saying, "Hey, you guys turned my life around in some way," or just something, or just what you guys were talking about or doing on the fish?
Right, lots, and I would say, you asked me earlier, how do you get up at 3:30 in the morning? Well, it's because of stories like that. It's so great that I get the opportunity maybe to meet somebody whose life was touched like that, who's going through a really, really hard time. Life is hard, and we have our ups and downs, and we have our hills and valleys, and you never know. One day things might be going great. The next day someone in your family might get a medical diagnosis, and you have to deal with that. So to be able to play a part in something you're saying, especially in the music that we play, to just have someone have some balance and perspective. I've had cool things that I get to do all the time. We've been able to have kids, with special needs come in and be a part of our show and see us at the radio station. Or if I get a phone call and someone wants me to visit them, I'll go visit them because, if I can add a little joy to their life, I'll do that. I think of one guy, actually. He listened to me on the radio, and he was going through a battle of cancer. He's battling cancer in his life. And for a while, it looked like he was getting the victory, but then it wasn't turning out that way. I was talking on the air about a ridiculous cure for the hiccups that I believe really works. So people have all these cures for the hiccups, right?
Yeah.
And, whether it's eat something, say something, sing something, whatever the case might be. And I've come to the conclusion that all of the cures are the same. It's psychosomatic. It has nothing to do with any of those things. So what I started doing is telling people, now I have to increase it to $1 or $2, but I would just simply say to you, if you were hiccuping, I would say, seriously, I'm not kidding here. I'll give you $0.25 if you hiccup again. Seriously. I'll give you a quarter, just one more hiccup, and I'll pay you for your hiccups. And I would say like 95% of the time it works. You just got to really sell it. You have to sell it. You probably got to increase it to $1 or $2 now. But
Inflation,
inflation, right. So anyhow, I was talking about that, and the guy, who was dealing with cancer, I get a letter in the mail, and there's a quarter in there. And he said, I just wanted you to know that I tried your cure on somebody, and it really, really worked. And I thought that was great. I was waiting to get another phone call from him because he called me at the radio station almost every day just to say hi and say you're an encouragement. It was about a week that went by right after I got that quarter. I didn't hear from him. And then another week went by, and then I got a phone call from a relative of his. And they said, he took a turn for the worse, and his cancer's terminal. And the one thing that he asked is that we put a radio by his bed because he wanted to be listening to the fish and the songs that you play in the fish when he went on his journey to be with the Lord. Wow. And, when something like that happens, how can you not just be thankful to get up every day at 3:30 and do your job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're making that kind of impact on somebody. I know in the corporate world, we talk a lot about in a sales meeting, you got to share what your why is, what's your motivation, and when that's your motivation to get up and you're getting to see someone's life changed or getting to encourage them in some of their darkest hours, that's such a big difference. What
side note to that, I shared with you guys earlier, I was in Christian radio, then out of Christian radio in sales, and then now I'm back in Christian music radio. But during that time in sales, I wanted to deliberately make sure that my faith made sense and that I could share what I believe in, the things that were important to me, and try to make a difference in people's lives who I made contact with. Because I thought it's easy to do that when you're working on a radio station that plays Christian music, right? But let's put it to the test now that you're not doing that now. So that was a really cool journey for me, and I'm so glad I got to experience that before I came back to the fish.
That's been a big topic in our core group of friends here, is how do we bring our faith into our workplace, and even when the workplace is not necessarily hospitable to the faith, but it's doing those little things and making an impact.
I mean, people need it, men and women right now. They need it, and a few generations ago, our faith was out there so people could find it somewhere because it was more readily accepted in our culture. But today people, they need more than the pursuit, like you said, of the next biggest house or a boat or what I can do next. People need to know, why am I here? What am I supposed to do with my family? Why don't I have peace? And so people need the message. Wherever you are, whatever you do, you have to let your light shine, as we say, as maybe an old children's song says. One of my favorite sayings is it's better to light a candle than curse the darkness. And I think in the climate we live in today, it's easy to curse the darkness, whether it's something you see on social media, something you see on the news, something you see in politics. We can all get together and we can preach to our own choir and say, isn't that horrible? Isn't that bad? We're heading in the wrong direction. But it's much better to light a candle than curse the darkness.
Yeah, I think you see a lot of cursing in general, just people angry. In society, not literal cursing, but maybe literal cursing.
Lots of both.
Yeah, both.
But
sure.
But having that different response, lighting the candle instead of joining in and cursing back. You
have to.
Yeah. It's a great saying too, and it's kind of a little bit again what we're trying to do with the podcast: bring on good people like you who can share their stories and hopefully shed a little bit of light to people that are listening. And this is an easier way to share, hey, we do a podcast, you should check it out, to non-Christian, and maybe they check it out, maybe they start to get something from it.
Yeah. Hey, for everybody, no matter where you're on the walk, it's still baby steps, right? One step at a time.
Right.
So.
One of the things I think would be tough in your job is that every day you have to be there and you're live. You're in front of people, and everything can be changing around you. It could be personal stuff in your family. Life happens. So I'm sure there's struggles there, but also just the world. This past year, crazy. Can you think of a time that was really hard to get on the mic in the morning? Or maybe even just a season of time that was tough?
Yeah, probably one time, this is very short, window of time, but it was difficult. I maintained the show when my mom was very close to, passed away, suddenly ill. And there probably even was, where she was getting treatment, there probably was a medical mistake. And so you're processing, all of that while you're still going in and doing the show, So that was one of the most difficult times for sure. As far as, mood outlook or attitude, I've got to be honest, I don't get down very often.
So it's not just on the radio.
No, I really don't. I just go through a series of, ways to check myself, whether it's checking myself through God's word or a reminder. Some people legitimately have it extremely difficult. It could be, sudden loss or tragedy, and that's legit. It's hard to pick yourself up from that for a while. They could have a physical disability or have a child or a parent or whatever the case that they're taking care of. So those things can really weigh on you. But in the normal 24/7, man, you've got to find a way to turn it around. You just can't be down.
Part of the job.
Yeah. So I would say, raising kids. And, we through those teenage years, you guys haven't experienced that yet.
Not yet.
And I will tell you, anyone who says the terrible twos or the kids when they're 4 or 5, that's the biggest challenge of that sort of thing. You guys are going to be
got
calling
another
me.
thing coming.
When they're teenagers, man, you're going to be calling me.
I think we've talked about that too, is sometimes you can easily get caught up in your emotions and anger and lack of patience sometimes with the kids and be like, man, I just wish they were a little older. But then you got to catch yourself and know that there's going to be plenty more challenges to come.
Yeah.
And enjoy some of this time now when it's really simpler problems.
Yeah.
It is. I was watching, I had an old video converted so we could watch it again. You have to do that now. We had when my kids were growing up, we had the big VHS cartridges, so I had to have it converted. And my oldest was 12 and my youngest was 3. And so it was great to watch that video because that was right before all the travel sports, getting involved in music, taking your kids everywhere. So, yeah, when your kids are younger, don't miss the opportunity. Enjoy it because it gets crazier. Yeah.
I'm a little terrified of what my 4-year-old daughter is going to be like as a teenager. She has a very strong personality, so it'll be interesting.
That's good. That's a good thing.
Oh, yeah, she's going to move mountains, but I'm a little terrified of the process.
I had one other question, too, around the radio station too, and just the job itself. So I was listening to a segment from you guys recently and you were interviewing somebody from a library and just asking them how have things been affected for you guys based on the emergence of Kindles and ebooks, and it got me thinking, like, how about a radio station, the Fish, with the emergence of podcasts and audio books and things like that and streaming services. How has it affected you guys, and have you had to transform yourselves in certain ways at all?
Yeah, we have and we are. I think this is great, the fact that anybody and everyone can be a broadcaster and get their message out there. Now, building an audience is another challenge, right? That's just like we have to market. You guys have to market, right? But I think it's a great thing. But it is a challenge. There are so many options out there, right? You use television as an example. I mean, how many people now watch live television, except for maybe sports? Right? Sports would be the exception. Other than that, you don't. You time shift watch it, or you binge watch it on the weekend. So it's a challenge for everybody. So two things you have to keep in mind. We have to do the very best job we can on the radio, but at the same time, when they switched from horses to cars, building a better horse carriage wasn't the answer. You had to make a change. And so even as we, continue to do what we do on the radio, and we're fortunate because radio is still the most prevalent thing that people listen to in their cars, still. But even that's shifting quickly. So, we'll be more active in streaming. We'll be more active digital with video. We're really starting to shift in that way and use the awesome tools that we have, which is professional broadcast team studios and preparation to reach people in new ways and hopefully fun and entertaining and exciting ways. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, we talked a little bit about the challenges of growing up and having teenagers and even the younger years. And like we discussed, there's 14 kids between us, and the oldest is 10. So
wow, that's awesome. That's crazy. Yeah, that's great.
But having, reached the other side, having, 3 grown daughters, or one's in college, right? But what kind of advice would you give to us as parents of young kids?
Oh boy, there are a lot of things. First of all, make your kids your priority, because what I've seen happen, I tried not to do it, is I've seen people start really, really well, but you can easily let the concerns of life, worry, advancement, your own hobbies, whatever the case might be, you can take your eye off the ball for just a short period of time. And that's when things can happen in those relationships that you don't want to happen. So, be strong, be committed. Make your family your priority. God gave them to you, so hopefully whatever you've accomplished, they'll be able to accomplish even more than that. So don't take your eye off the ball, for sure. And then my wife wouldn't always agree with me on this one, my wife Judy, but I always would say yes to your kids as often as you can, but have the courage to say no when you have to. She was a little bit of a knower. Can Katie come over? No, why not? She just can't. That's right. Yeah. But I try to say yes as often as possible, because if they ask and they want to do and they're excited and they're exploring and they're learning, I say yes. But there's times that you have to say no, and you have to have the courage to say no.
I feel like it's easy to default to a no answer because the yes is going to take more work.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, pretty much always.
Yeah.
But that's a great little tip.
And that's it. And enjoy stuff like this. Like the best feeling for a dad, I think. And I have all girls. I don't know if you do this as much with little boys, but the best feeling in the world for a dad is to be able to hike their kid up on their shoulders, right?
Yeah.
And just walk and let them see the world from that high perspective and knowing they're safe on your shoulders. And, little things like that. I miss little things like that. When I remember my daughter, April, when she was trick-or-treating for the last time, I would always take her from the allotment we went to, and I would walk home. It was like a quarter mile, maybe more than that. And I said, I've always carried you on my shoulders. I'm going to. And by this time, she was like 90 or 100 pounds. It was like,
It was a really, even longer walk, yeah.
Yeah, it felt like a longer walk. But, I mean, all that little stuff, man, just soak it in and enjoy it. And, humor's a key in your home. Have fun, laugh. I think my kids love coming home, and they haven't drifted far from us because they feel safe, they feel comfortable, and they're in their 20s now, and because we laugh a lot.
Yeah. So have you ever read any Bob Goff?
My co-host Sarah reads a ton of Bob Goff, so through osmosis and her giving me Bob Goff
Bob
quotes.
Goff. Yeah. Well, you just remind me of him, just how you talk, how you live your life. And I was just listening to a podcast where he was getting interviewed, and he was asked, what is one thing that you would change about how you parented your kids growing up? And he said, I would punish them less. And I would focus more on doing adventures and just saying yes and doing things. You know?
I think that's right.
And now I check myself because, I probably quick to discipline and say no more than I should, but I think there's definitely a balance there you got to play. But you can always say yes and just do with them versus trying to find areas to correct them all the time, because that's so easy for me to do.
It is. Yeah. I mean, honestly, you put yourself in their shoes and how you would want to be corrected, even where you work or what you do and what approach you'd want someone to take. Many times, you hear or you see a child that's humiliated in front of their peers and other people, and you think, if I were on the job, would I want to be humiliated in front of my coworkers? Well, no, I wouldn't. So I shouldn't treat my child that way. Discipline's a whole other thing, though. It's important. Like I say, that's why you have to have the courage to say no, because ultimately what we're wanting our kids to do is have that sense of right and wrong and the need to, put the Lord first in their decision making. And I always have told some friends and parents and maybe those who are raising their kids, your kids will always tell you the truth until they don't want to. And so you got to be on it all the time. Yeah.
I think for me, it's too easy to think of my kids sometimes as an inconvenience, like when they're asking for all these things and just want to be all up in your space all the time.
Yes.
Instead of the blessings that they are. So that's when I too quickly jump to the no, I think. So that's a great tip.
Yeah, but you have to watch them. If they're doing that, sometimes then the kids are manipulating you. So you just gotta. You're smarter than them. You just gotta figure out how to trick them. Just trick them.
Maybe like 10% smarter than them, but. So I've listened to you talk on the radio about coaching your daughter's team. So we got into a little bit about the general parenting, but you've spent a lot of time on the softball field, right?
Oh yeah, I have 3 girls. Didn't know it was going to work out that way. Now I'm glad in retrospect it worked out that way, because they were all in sports, in the same sports. We became one of those fast pitch softball families, and summer travel ball, and all of that. And I love coaching. I think there's so many lessons to learn in sports. First of all, just on its base level, to give kids that feeling of accomplishing something if they put in the work and they put in the right kind of work, right? So you just can't try, you have to try right. But, if you put in the work and you put in the right kind of work, the reward, it doesn't have to be a champion. I coached community Little League for years, and there would always be 1 or 2 kids that I would focus on, and I would say, that kid is going to get a hit. Before this season ends, they're going to stay in the batter's box, and they are going to get a hit, because I know what that will mean to them, and I know what it will mean to their parents. Wow. So just on its base level, sports, that's what I enjoyed, helping kids achieve things and accomplish moments that would last a lifetime. I mean, those memories, all of us have played sports, right? And we all, there's most of the things we can't remember very much about math class or about history class, but we can remember, right? But we remember moments in sports, right? Things that we accomplished in sports. And everyone has a story. For some person, it was a high level of achievement. For another thing, it was when they were 9 or 10 years old and, they had the game-winning catch in a Little League game. It doesn't matter. You remember that sort of thing. Sports, I've been able to, as I coach, teach kids to succeed, and when they do, to be humble, which is really important. And when you fail, to have grace, because, both inevitably will happen. Being a part of a team, that is not about you, which to me is kind of like, in a small way, a lesson about the body of Christ, right? Everybody who's a Christian has a different part to play, in God's big mission. Well, in sports, if you're on a team, everybody has a role to play. And so when I would coach third base, when I coached them when they were young, I thought I was going to help them by screaming at them. It didn't work, And by the time the kids were a little bit older and I coached them, the only thing I would mostly say, except giving my signs, I would say, come on, help your team. That's it, right? It's a team sport. It's all about helping the team. It's been fun. It's been a great journey. I was able to coach a Little League team to Little League World Series and play on ESPN.
That's awesome.
That was super cool. Lost to Puerto Rico 2-1 in the championship.
Wow.
I was calling pitches, and I called the wrong pitch.
You also remember the failures in athletics a lot of times, too. Those stick with you, too.
Right, and to see I'm still here, right?
You made it.
Yeah, and my daughter, April, it was great. She plays softball now. She plays for Malone University in Canton. She plays third base and is a real good hitter. She's a really good player. But she and a number of girls I had a chance to coach since they were little, they won the Ohio High School Athletic Association State Softball Championship Division I in 2017. There's very few feelings that are greater than that. Even big accomplishments in college, to have your whole town at Akron Firestone Stadium cheering for you. So, those are things that will last a lifetime. But sports is great. It's just a great training ground. Discipline, learning, just not to try hard, like I said, but to learn the right methods and techniques to do it right. That's how you succeed. And then, all you have to do is you do your best, but that's no guarantee of success. And
Right.
so there's a lot of life lessons.
Yeah.
Another good line. Got some good ones.
Talk to me. You mentioned teaching them how to lose gracefully. I have not successfully taught my kids that aspect yet. They are the worst losers, and maybe it's because I'm not a great loser
Starts
as well
with
too.
the top.
Starts
right.
with the parents.
Yeah.
Any insight on how you taught them to? It seems like they've had a lot of success here as well too. But how to take that on the other side?
Yeah. Well, first of all, now it's funny that you said that because I do think modeling is important, right? As a coach or as a parent, you can't blame referees, umpires, coaches, the weather, the turf, the glove they have, or whatever the case might
Sun
be.
glare.
Right? You have to realize that the responsibility falls on you. I tried to bring a faith element into it, honestly, for my kids. Not all the coaches all the kids I taught, necessarily I couldn't do that to. But with my kids, I wanted them to be a good representative of our family and the Lord, So with my kids, I was able to do that. And, with other kids, basically, who really did get upset, who maybe didn't have that background, I just pull them aside and patiently talk with them and just tell them what successful people do versus what unsuccessful people do. And, you never get very far cutting a fit. And so, I really just think it's a journey. It's patience. It's love. It's caring about the outcome for them and investing as much as you have to get the outcome you're looking for.
That's right.
Yeah.
I got to invest a little bit more, I think.
Stop throwing fits, Andrew.
And ground them. Grounding never works, does it? The kids today, they have video game consoles in their room.
Stick.
Yeah.
Please, carrot stick works. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
Again, it's almost more work on the parents to have to take away everything because there's so much stuff now that you got to take away. And,
I saw a funny video like that. It was a little girl. She was 9, and she says, "You're going to take away my video game console." She says, "Really, Mom? Does that mean you're going to spend a whole day with me playing dolls?" I don't think so.
They know how to work it. They know those
for
threats.
sure. Yeah, but it's great. It's a blessing and great memories. But you definitely want to keep a level head. It's not always easy. I had one parent who was that ballistic parent, the ballistic softball mom, and now she comes up to me. She's a wonderful woman. She's a Christian woman, but she just lost it at the games all the time on the umpires. In fact, one time, honestly, I won't say her name for sure. I was coaching third, and the umpire just called timeout, and he just lit into her. I mean, even using language he shouldn't.
Wow.
And I called timeout. I went up, and I said, "Hey, Blue, just a minute. You can't talk to someone like that." And he said, "You know what she just said to me?" And he told me what she said. I says, "Oh, you have my permission." But she comes up to me now, and she says, "You know what? I'm so embarrassed. I don't know what was going through my mind." And I say that to any parents that might be listening right now. I mean, don't go there. Honestly, as a parent, don't go there. Don't put too much pressure on your kid. Don't live vicariously, your sport dream through your kid. Stay off the umpires, stay off your coaches, and you need to do that. You need to do that. And it's an important subject because it's a big deal. I just read a statistic that they're having a hard time. And it's not that the pay's bad. They have a hard time finding referees in the Ohio High School Athletic Association. And they say, why? And they say, it's not the time, it's the parents.
Yeah.
They just don't want to
You
deal
can't
with
pay
it.
them
They don't want
enough
to deal
anymore.
with it. They don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
So, don't be that parent and help the other parents, help them off the ledge. Yeah, seriously.
I was an umpire in I was 14, I think. So I had a summer job to be an umpire.
Yeah.
And I was umping this, like, the kid pitch, whatever that little league is.
Yeah, yeah.
And the kid, you could not get it anywhere near the strike zone. So I was calling barely any strikes. And he was just walking people around. I'm like, I will call anything that's near the plate. But then the coach comes out and just starts ripping into me after he walks another kid. And I'm like, I'm 14, so he's like this tall. I'm like this tall, and he's like terrifying. I'm like, all right, I'm never going to do that. Like that's not going to be the parent that I am.
And I will definitely say, for people of faith who say that's a priority in my life, you can't do it. You know, you can read, through the whole book about like what's referred to as the fruit of God's Spirit,
Yep.
Love, patience, etc., or different parts of the Bible that talk about our need, to be loving, and the attitude. And there's no exemption for sports in there. I checked. There's no exemption, so you just can't go there.
Doesn't say anything about terrible umpires.
No. So I know I'm kind of harping on that, but it's a big problem.
Yeah,
it's a big problem, and people of faith need to lead the way in that.
I think it goes back, just like you said, for the reason that you get up in the morning at 3:30 to do that joy that you come, but knowing that ultimately you're going to further the kingdom, but you have to bring that to all aspects.
You have to bring
isolate
it to
your
every
kids'
aspect.
sports
No,
and not look at that the same way.
Right. I did I was talking to a men's group, and we've all heard it a million times. What are the two great commandments that we're supposed to follow? Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And many times we shift right to that one. Because you say, well, I'm going to be kind to people, I'm going to be nice to people, I'll be friendly to people, I'll let someone cut in line if they, have only a few items, and, that's fine. But always remember what the first one was, is love the Lord, your God with all your heart, soul, might, and strength. And so that has to be your filter. I mean, that's number one. That has to be your filter for everything.
Yeah, if you try to do just the second one, you're gonna slip up. It's not gonna stay for that long, because if you're not rooted in that,
you have to run it through the filter, the big filter. Yeah.
Did you play any sports growing up?
You know what? I played. Stopped playing high school sports. You kind of have to. I didn't really have any parental involvement whatsoever, rides and that kind of stuff. So I played Little League, wound up playing. In fact, I really came back to the Lord playing church league basketball. I love playing basketball. So we'd play.
I was going to ask that question, because you're so tall, but I
you
figured you'd get that.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't mean I have the hops. There's a big difference between the two, right? But love playing basketball. Love playing baseball for as much as I did. I played, community ball and rec ball until I was like 15 or whatever, 16 or whatever the case might be. So, love doing that. Yeah.
Cool. And I know you're a golfer now, right? I've heard you talk about it a couple times.
Yeah, you know what? I do like to play golf. Just ordered some clubs. I'm 6'5", and this is the first time I'm going to have fitted clubs.
Oh, that's got to be a game changer.
Yeah, it better be. We're talking like $1,000. It better change the game.
Talk about that anger. It might not subside that.
But, so enjoy playing golf. Don't take it super seriously, although it's funny because when I was getting fit for my clubs, or when I was trying to decide I needed longer clubs, I'm a big person, and I always have been when I train in softball, of video analysis, right? So I video every kid's swing. They all know it, every kid I coach. I still coach a lot, do a lot of specialty coaching today, and pitching and hitting. And, I'm there with my camera, slow motion, breaking down the analysis. And so, golf should be the same way, right? If you can repeat the exact same moves that Dustin Johnson does, you should be able to hit the ball like this. Why wouldn't you? You have two arms, two legs, and a head, so to speak. I says, Jude, come in here for a second. I got to decide if I need longer clubs. Said, I'm going to position my body exactly like Dustin Johnson, and I'm going to hold my existing clubs and tell me when I look exactly like him. And then my club was 1.5 inches off the ground. So I realized I'll hit just like him now.
There you go.
Problem solved.
We'll see you great summer. We'll see you on the tour.
Yeah, no doubt. I love playing, though. I love playing in outings, honestly. I love scrambles. Love doing outings because it's a team thing. That's number one. And number two, and you guys know this if you golfed. All you guys golf?
Yeah.
A little bit.
This guy's in a league, actually.
Yeah.
I was the worst golfer out of these four, so I joined the league last summer to try to get a little better.
Boy.
We mention that every time we can.
When you join leagues, there's some kind of weird bell curve where you get better for a little bit, and then it just kind of
going to plateau.
Yeah. But just the conversation, the camaraderie, being out in nature. Golf's a great, great game, and my daughters play.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
We go out and play. It's really great.
That's a lot of fun.
My first date with my wife, I met her at church, and I was talking to some guys about golf, and she said, I'd like to learn to play golf. And I said, well, that's good. Sometime I'll take you.
Yeah.
That was it. Next week, she said, I'd really like to learn to play golf? I said, I'll take you sometime. And she said, when? And I said, Tuesday. And that was it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I thought we would have this budding golfing
No.
romance relationship, but she doesn't like to play.
So she wasn't interested in golf.
Ulterior
She was-
motives, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. So what else do you like to do to relax?
You know, of course, I coach and have coached a lot, so I need to find a new hobby. Although they're keeping me busy, I just keep getting calls from people that, you know, would like me to do a little bit of specialty coaching in different positions. So that takes up some time. I love being outside. You know, if I can go to a park, we have amazing metro parks in this area. We have a national park right here, right? The Cuyahoga Valley.
Yep.
Right down the road.
Yeah, it's right where your studios are here almost. And so, you know, I love outside. And then I'm a little bit of a video, computer, learn new technique, social media geek. I like doing some of that. So if it's snowing or it's cold, you know, I spend some time on the computer. But in general, man, the day is so full at the Fish. You know, I get there 3:30, do the show from 6. You know, working through the afternoon, and there's plenty to do. So
Come do an interview with these 4 random
yeah,
guys.
that's right. That's right. Have that on the list. So, you know, not a lot of specific activities because it's full. I do, honestly, one thing I do love to do personally is I love to read and study either topics of motivation, self-improvement, you know, living the positive, successful life, or I like to study my faith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that your like days are packed full. How do you work that balance? Because we all know if you're completely driven or if you're completely relaxed, you know, either one of those, if you're tipping too far on the spectrum. So how do you keep that balance?
Right. You know, that's interesting because it's not too deliberate in terms of a schedule. I'm a terrible schedule keeper. I get made fun of by my co-host Sarah, my wife Judy. I don't keep a calendar.
Oh, at all?
I keep my calendar in my head.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I do. So as far as like structure, I'm not super structured, you know. But for me, it really is all about balance and not getting too overwhelmed or upset about anything. Not to get obsessed. I have to finish that deck. If I don't finish my deck, you know, the world's not going to end if you don't finish your deck. Or it can be a work thing. You know, I have to strive. I have to drive. I have to keep pushing, you know, whatever the case might be. Some things are good, some are bad. But if it is stuff or things, they're temporary, right? Your investment in people, in your heart, in your character, and your legacy. Those are the things that last. And so I just really, you know, I know one of your core values is chill. And really it doesn't matter for me if I'm doing the radio show or if I'm sitting down relaxing watching a ball game, or if I'm keeping an incredible schedule, or if I'm having a sales meeting with someone who is the bigwig of a Fortune 500 company. It's just keeping it in perspective. So I try to be in a state of doing my best and working hard, but also a constant state of chill at the same time.
That's awesome.
Try.
I think that's about the best answer we've heard on that.
Yeah.
Just, I'm always in chill mode.
We haven't heard that. That's a different answer to that question. I really like that because maybe it's more of an approach of how you go through your day rather than something that has to be set aside. I love that.
Man, that is the way I feel. It's like you have a reset button. You can just keep hitting. You can just keep it over and over again, you know. So as soon as something big happens, hit reset.
Yeah, you can tell you don't take yourself too seriously and those types of things. And we try to say that, and we try to do that in a lot of different ways. But I mean, I am definitely a creature of my calendar and habit of what's going on.
Okay.
And that can for sure play into it because if I don't put it in my calendar, it's not going to happen. You know? But then you get stuck into that where if you just don't have it at all, you don't have to worry about it at all.
I don't recommend that. And all of
that's what I got
on the
from it.
receiving end of appointments I missed, don't recommend that. But, you know, because you have to balance that, right? If you're not going to keep a calendar, you still have to be responsible because you're accountable to yourself and to the Lord, right?
Yeah.
So you better figure out a way to do it.
Absolutely.
It's funny because we all have different ways of staying chill.
Yeah.
So for you, it's I don't want to put it on the calendar, maybe.
Yeah.
For someone else, it's if it's not in the calendar, I'm freaking
not
out.
gonna chill.
Right.
So it really is. It's kind of a tailored approach, but
Right.
that's really interesting.
I mean, it's a strange way to say it, but you know, it's an illustrate. You can't carry it out to a full extent, but whatever worries or whatever problems you have, whatever they are, or things that you think are super important, the day that you pass away, and you guys are all young, God willing, you guys got another 80 or 90 years, but the day you pass away, your problems, for the most part, disappear. They're gone. They were almost an illusion. And the things that you were really, really worked up about,
wow,
nobody cares.
Done.
Yeah. Also, all those things that you were, working towards from a worldly, cultural standpoint, all that money and the houses we talked about, it's all gone.
Right, it's not yours. Yeah, one of the wildest books to read in the Bible, if you have the guts to read it, is Ecclesiastes, because it doesn't address life like any of the other books. It talks about those things, the futility of just pursuing and pursuing and pursuing, and then maybe you leave what you have to somebody else and they just squander it in a day. So, and it ends something like this. I won't have this exact, but it says, let's hear the conclusion of this whole matter. Fear God, keep his commandments. This is the whole duty of man. And this is a good approach.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We'll have to go through and read Ecclesiastes together, I think.
We'll just skip to the end. I think we can just skip.
Chapter 12, just go there. Yeah, the other stuff. Yeah.
Puts a bow on it.
It's a long process, but
that's right. Okay, if he's saying all this and he says, here's the conclusion, go to the conclusion. Yeah.
Read Cliff's Notes in high school.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome. So you said you love to read and study the Bible, and can you give us some recommendations of things that you've absorbed recently that you're a big fan of?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm a skimmer. First of all, I don't know if anyone else is, but I'm not a cover to cover guy.
Yeah,
it's like this one looks good. Get something from the first few chapters, flip through, good chapter heading. Read the end of the book. I'm that. So I'm not a cover to cover guy. But two things really. One in media. A book series really impacted me, probably, changed me profoundly in 2019, 2020. And the books, it's actually a couple of Bible commentaries. It's called The Rational Bible, and the author of The Rational Bible is a guy named Dennis Prager. Dennis Prager is he's a conservative Jewish man, very, very strong in his faith. And the journey really started, like, that book came to me at just the right time, because I was going through different stories in the Bible. One of the stories, for example, is the original story, the story of original sin, Adam and Eve in the garden, and they sin. And, we've all heard that story. And most Christians, not all, but most Christians take that as a literal story, that the original sin happens and then Jesus has to come to rescue mankind and be the second Adam and all that. But this guy is a Jew. He's not. And I thought, well, how do they read this? Is it a metaphor to them?
Yeah.
Is it a real story that really happened? Do they believe there was a real Eden? I would love to hear what a Jewish person, since they had the original book, right? They had the books before we did.
Yeah.
What does that mean to them? And I was starting to try to find that out. I wanted to know what some of those stories meant to them. Did they take them literally, or were they Jewish metaphors?
Yeah.
And then his book, the Rational Bible, came out. He did the book of Exodus and the book of Genesis in that order. Genesis was really fascinating because his take in looking at those Bible verses, the way Jewish people look at those verses, it just like blew my mind completely. So deep. Interesting things I learned. Let me give you a couple of examples from the Bible. Some people watching or listening to your podcast may know these stories, they may not. But one of them that fascinated me, I think it's applicable to our times, was the story of Noah, the story of Noah's Ark. And, when we picture Noah, we have a tendency to picture Noah as just this perfect guy. Guy called him. Everyone else was wicked and horrible. God had destroyed the world. But there's a passage of that says Noah was found righteous in his generation. And Prager goes on to say, the way we look at that as Jews and understand this in the Hebrew, that doesn't mean he was perfect. It means based on everything that was going around him at the time, all the violence and all the vileness that was going on, this guy, he stood out. By no means did that mean he was perfect. It just means he was found righteous in his generation.
Yeah.
That was interesting. And I was thinking about like our country, for example. And it's easy for people to look back at our country and say, oh, I can't believe that people did that or this in our country. But there were many people that in that generation, they were trying to do the right thing, and they were righteous in their generation, maybe not compared to how we look at it today.
Yeah.
So like that really blew me away. Adam and Eve, the creation of Eve, God says, I'll make a helper. And that verse has been misused, where, that means that the woman is subservient to the man. But Prager says the Hebrew says that when he made woman as a helper, that the Hebrew word used means equal but different and separate. And so it's not that they weren't equal.
Yeah.
They were separate and different.
Yeah.
And I scored big points with my wife and co-host when I made that discovery. That was like, another one, this is crazy. Can I do one that's kind of deep?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love it.
All right. So you know the story of Abraham. He takes his son Isaac, and that was his promised son. I mean, I don't know, Abraham was 99 or something, or Sarah was 99 when they had Isaac. God promised the child, and it wasn't happening. It finally did. So this was finally the son, the heir, who God made all the promises to. And then Abraham is told, you're going to sacrifice Isaac. Remember that? Isaac goes and gets the wood. So first of all, Prager and scholars say he wasn't a little kid. He couldn't have carried all that wood if he was a little kid, Isaac. So he was probably a teenager or older. So that's interesting.
That is,
that his dad is going to sacrifice him there as a teenager, not as a little kid.
Yeah.
And then that event happens. We know God rescues and provides a sacrifice. But what blew me away is from that point on, Abraham and his wife Sarah, Isaac's mom, never lived together again. They were married, but they never lived together again. And Prager said, lives and relationships are messy, and they weren't perfect. And there's a good possibility that she couldn't deal with that story. They came back and said, hey, I was going to sacrifice your son, but then God provided a ram. She said, really? And he went and honorably buried her.
Wow.
But they didn't. Does that blow you away?
Yeah, never heard that.
It just totally blows me away. So, Rational Bible, Dennis Prager.
That's great.
And then something that really impacted me so much is the series, The Chosen, the video series.
I've heard a lot about that.
Have you not seen The Chosen?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
Life-changing. Like, until someday I meet Jesus, this is how I'll look at Jesus, like he's portrayed in The Chosen.
Wow.
Completely will blow you away. It's fantastic. It's like a regular Netflix show. Okay, so it's not like any Bible show. Like if you expect this to start with Mary having a baby, it doesn't start that way.
Yeah.
It's great.
The second season just came out,
It
right?
just started.
Yeah.
It just started. And the portrayal of Jesus, it's a really great way for people to learn who Jesus is and what he came to the earth for and what his message was. And it's fun. It's funny. Like, it was episode 4, which is the story of where Jesus turns water into wine. So it's the first miracle recorded in the Bible. It's at a wedding. And so what happens in The Chosen is all the disciples, the followers of Jesus, they're invited to the wedding along with Jesus. Andrew and Peter are having this humorous conversation the whole time because apparently Andrew can't dance. And at weddings, right, well, that's the pressure,
is that
right?
True? Is that true, Andrew?
Yeah,
I can dance. I can cut a rug.
We'd like to see that. So that's the pressure at weddings, right? Are you going to get out there? Are you going to dance? So that's kind of a story that takes place. And then the wedding takes place. And there's the panic, and Jesus turns the water into wine. The miracle happens, and everyone's feasting and celebrating and dancing in joy. Even Andrew gets into the act, And then as soon as that scene ends, it's the end of the episode. And Peter says, that's amazing. He says, there's just one thing, he says to Jesus. He says, there's just one thing. Can you do anything about my brother's dancing? And Jesus turns to him and he says, Peter, there's some things that even I can't do. Isn't that great?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That's good.
Yeah, so watch it, and it really does.
Where do you find that? Where's that?
There is an app, and it's free. It's the Chosen app. They bypass Netflix and all that stuff because there's certain financial things that would make it impossible. And this is the world's largest crowd-funded video project ever. This is all paid for by people that just want to see it happen. And I think now there are 100 million people have watched it now. It's huge. Their goal is 1 billion people.
Yeah.
And you'll be blown away. It's great, and it really did. It really changed my life. It made what Jesus came to earth for. It's really hit home with me. I think you'll love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You got 4 more watches here
in
the next week or so.
I've heard
that sounds great.
Heard a lot of stuff about that lately, especially with the second season coming out. So that's good to get a recommendation.
Just, go right through, and there's lots of, what do they say in shows? Easter eggs. Easter eggs are things, where you, if you really watch it, you can pick up on things, and there's lots of those in the shows, and it's good. It's really
that's
good.
cool.
That's great. Cool.
Well, I do have one more very serious question for you.
Okay, with that as the preface.
Mike always brings the serious questions.
Yes.
No, I mean, favorite, Robin, Brooke, or Sarah?
Oh, right.
Right now, you got to answer.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I do have to say this, though. Of course, Robin, amazing personality, and loved working with Robin. And then Brooke is, such a beautiful person inside and out, and she's so devout to her faith. Brooke Taylor, you should just look at her social media. And we had a unique, fun friendship on the air, but also, in our spiritual lives, there's a real cool challenge there, because Brooke is deeply of the Catholic tradition and faith, and I'm not. And so we would constantly compare notes. What do you do this? Why do you do that? Why do you do that? And that was really fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
And, we remained really good friends. And then, I just can't say enough about my co-host, Sarah. We're not supposed to say luck. I won't say lucky. I'm so fortunate. I'm so blessed to have her. She is an amazing mom, professional, just funny, creative. She brings so much to the show behind the scenes, just not on the air, but the preparation and the ideas that she comes up with. And again, just another person that is so committed to her faith and devotion, and just doing things right the best she can as a mom and as a wife, as far as her life and her faith is concerned. So, we're great friends, and I've had 3 great co-hosts. Yeah,
that's awesome.
I figured that's about what the
That
answer
was
would be. So that's all right. I'd throw it out there.
Politically correct and true.
Very good. Very good.
And I don't want any new ones. I'm happy with how it is. Yeah.
Fantastic.
All good. No, we appreciate you coming on. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's been so much fun.
Yeah,
Thanks
it's
for coming
been
out.
fantastic. Everybody, you can check out Len and Sarah on 95.5 The Fish in the mornings. When do you start? 6?
Yeah, show starts at 6.
Yeah.
I'll be up at 3:30 getting ready. And no, we just love what we do. And our branding slogan right now is music that lifts you up.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what we need, right? There's enough stuff going on around us. Just forget our personal lives, just what's happening around us is the messages that we're bombarded with everywhere, that, we need perspective and we need to be lifted up. So that's why we're there.
Yeah, we got the opportunity to talk to Keith Smith. He's a producer in Nashville, and his wife is Tasha Layton.
Very
who
good.
play on The Fish quite a bit.
Do.
So we got to talk through how that story came to be for Everything's Gonna Be Okay, Into the Sea, and just talk through that process. And that's definitely music that has lifted me up. So it's nice to hear it on The Fish.
I will say this, the artists and music we play in The Fish, I've got a chance to meet so many other people that perform and write contemporary Christian music, and man, they are in it for the right reason. They love what they do. They love sharing from their hearts and being an encouragement to people. So it's great. I'm lucky to be a part of it, fortunate, blessed to be a part of it. Yeah.
Favorite artist or song right now? You got one?
Oh, my favorite artists right now are For King and Country. The group For King and Country.
Yeah, that's good.
I've gotten to know those guys really well, and their dad is a great guy. He's their manager.
Okay.
And it's neat what they do, because they take what they do really seriously. Before every concert, whether they're in their traveling van or backstage or whatever the case might be, they get together. They have a talk. They do a little Bible study. Their dad goes, it's so great. But their latest song, most recent song, we're playing Amen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's a great one. Yeah.
It sounds great. It sounds cool. But Luke, who is one of the members of the band, he wrote it and what the song is about. And if you hear it, if you look it up or listen to it on The Fish, what it's about is he was rebaptized as an adult. He was baptized as a child, and he just said, I really, really want to have this line of demarcation where I really want to be serious about starting my journey as a dad and as a husband and as a person in this music business and as a person of faith trying to impact people. So, he was baptized, and that's what the whole song is about. Is that's, traditionally when you're baptized in a crowd of people so they can witness your decision, that commitment. And so when everybody sings, amen, that's what they're doing. They're affirming his decision. That's cool. Yeah, love really that song. Cool.
It's funny that you bring another little story, but it's funny that you bring up For King and Country because we went to a For King and Country concert in like 2012.
Yeah.
And I told my wife that we were going to be talking with you today. She's like, "Oh, I know Len." She's like, "I met him at a For King and Country concert." Like 2012.
I remember that. Tell her.
I'm sure. Yeah, sure. He remembers that. I'll talk to him about it. Don't worry.
That's great. That's great.
But yeah, that's cool. Love that band. Love that music. And it's been fantastic having you on. Thank you so much for coming down here and spending some time with us. We'll go and do some donuts with the F1 Fishy now, right?
You know what? Let's do it. Let's slow motion video. Let's turn some donuts. For sure. No, really, thank you for letting me be a part of this. You guys choosing in your own life and scheduling time with your busy family lives to say, we want to do this. We want to communicate message and bring something to people that they need to hear is great. We need more of it.
Awesome. Yep. Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.
Sure.
Thanks.
All right.
Yep. Thanks.
Thanks for checking out the Core 4 Life podcast. If you like what you're hearing, why don't you tell a friend about us? Share a link to our podcast on social media or get in touch with us at Core 4 Life or core4life.com. That's core, F-O-U-R, life.com. Catch you next time.
Core for life.
Yep.
I said a core for life.
Dilly.
All right, we're recording.